Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on February 3rd, 2023 at approximately 4:25 p.m. PST. Now, I returned to this world for one primary reason, and that is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the same tools that I personally live by, and the philosophies of life are the same ones that I personally utilize on a day-to-day basis. Now, with this in mind, I figured I might just as well look at the world from the standpoint, of how do we move forward just one step at a time. Since you cannot move backwards in time, you take a look at where you are right this moment and start moving forward from there. Hey, little Katie, how we doing? And you're in with the gold. And I'm really glad you're ready because we, as a society and as individuals, I know myself included, I have been sitting still, going, when's it going to change? I'd like somebody else to straighten this out. Well, it's not happening. Okay, the only way things are going to change is if we turn around and absolutely make the changes happen. Okay. Oh, that's excellent. Don't you love that when you get that one piece of information out of the way, or that one obstacle out of the way? All of a sudden it makes things move a little bit more readily. This is why, I was working on my books today and getting rid of all the excess clutter. So I think all the books are on. I don't require that. I do believe that all the books that I'm currently actively working on are now brought up to date. Carl, how you doing? You're in with the silver today. Well, that's okay. We can understand that, Carl. Whatever you do, make certain you pay attention to the road more than you do to the show. Okay, because quite frankly, it'd be a real bummer to have you run into an accident based on that. And we have Joe in with the bronze. How you doing, Joe? Glad you could join us. It really is time for all of us to pitch together and go, okay, how do we make this world shift? And I will tell you, it's going to be one person at a time. Which means I just about didn't come on today because my YouTube channel is having real fun trying to let me into it. And I don't know how to change the password on it. But somehow I keep bypassing the password to get in here. And don't ask me how that works. We are talking tech and me. Not always, they aren't always compatible, if you will. Now, of course, I do have this neat little thing. We take a look at what you're aiming for. Yeah, that didn't work, so we'll leave that there. You take a look at where your world is. Okay. Yeah, well, I do apologize for missing the show the other day, but the reality is, for me, heart attacks are just kind of a normal way of life. So I turn around, every 3 or 4 days, it seems, I end up with, stress level got too high, let's try another heart attack. I will tell you, though, not interested in trying and experiencing a secondary stroke. One was more than enough. But at this point, I'm looking at things, and I'll just get into it right off the hop here. Something rather critical at this point. We're on here until 6:30, and then at 9 o'clock tonight, I'm on Spaced Out Radio as well. So things are starting to pick up. I've managed to get I've managed to go through the files and what have you. Got my income tax turned in today, and I'll tell you, that was kind of a necessary little modification. See, this is what I mean. Couldn't find my coffee cup earlier. Forgot to come check in the office, so I got a hot cup of coffee. And if I really get desperate, I've got a cold cup of coffee. So one drawback of having a short-term memory problem. Actually, I got no problem with my memory being short. But I went through. I spent the morning. Well, actually, I spent all of yesterday. Yesterday was and all of yesterday during the day clearing out a whole pile of files off the top of my desktop. And now I can actually find the top of my desktop. Which for me is kind of a necessary little thing if I'm going to get things accomplished. What do I got here? Do have to send this up to somebody else. So we'll just pop this in here, paste that there, and send it off. But take a look at where your life is. Take a look at what you're working on. For me, it really boils down to an issue getting on track and going, okay, what is not working? Well, what's not working for me is I have got procrastination down to an absolutely fine art. Okay, not necessarily the best accomplishment in life, but certainly it's working. So from my standpoint, if you've, like in your case, Katie, you've managed to you've started getting things sorted around, and it really is a question of one step at a time. As a matter of fact, this funny little list here that I've been working on. Where is my pen? Nope. Finished that. Finished the floor. Got that done. Just love when the paper doesn't work on my pad properly. Didn't do those, but that's okay. We'll figure that out afterwards. But now it's a question of taking a look at things and going, how am I going to change the rest of the way my world is going? How are you going to change yours? It's not going to happen by just wishful thinking. There's a belief in many circles that thinking about doing something is as good or as bad as doing it. Now, I ask you, if you've been thinking of doing something and haven't done any action, any effort towards it, has it worked for you? Has anything shifted? Okay. I know from my standpoint, not so much. Okay. Well, I can relate to that all too well there, Joe. This morning, let me just take a peek at that, because I have a tendency now of writing it down. Primarily because I keep forgetting what I was doing. But last night I went to bed at 11 o'clock and was back up I went to bed, at 11 o'clock, back up at 2:30 this morning. And it has dawned on me that it's this tendency of getting up at 2:30 in the morning that's making it more and more difficult to actually sleep the night through. Hey, Chad, how you doing? And you're in with honorable mention. I keep trying to find time to get on to Chad to actually drop in on your show there, Chad. iVoice, how you doing? Yeah, how you doing? I'm glad you could join us. I won't be partying a lot on Spaced Out. I will be there today. For those of you that don't know, which is very few of you at this point, 9 p.m. tonight, first Friday of February, and we're on Spaced Out Radio again from 9 until 11 p.m. So it's going to be a long night for me, since I've already been up since 2:30 this morning. That was fun. But I keep forgetting there, Chad, because I keep wanting to drop in on your show. I keep forgetting what time it starts. And for those of you that don't know, where are we? Chad, I did that at the top. But here we have Chad's show. Okay. And we bring that over here. Where'd my cursor go? There it is. And we go paste. And we go, and there's the link. I am thinking today, like I still haven't been able to get my printer doing what I desire it to, which doesn't surprise me. We are talking tech and me. Okay. And tech has invariably, well, almost invariably, been a complicated problem. But you take a look at where things are staying now. We have been taught as a society to live in fear, to literally fear everything. Now, I don't know about you, but that's not working out all that well for me. I've spent way too much of my life actually in fear of things. Okay, now, pardon the noise. No, I'm not going to do that. We just tear that in half so I don't need to worry about it. I know it's done. The reality of it is we can continue fearing things. We can continue waiting for somebody to come down and fix this mess up. It's not happening that way. Okay. But it will happen on the whole if, as individuals, or more to the point, when, as individuals, we start correcting the miscalculations we've been making. Now, I am going to touch on something very, very, and I don't know how brief it'll be. We'll figure that out. But it's been asked many times on Spaced Out Radio, and we always end up getting sidetracked. Okay, but this whole issue, this whole issue of whether or not off-worlders are going to come down and straighten this mess out, and yes, I am going to include God in that group. People that are not human, that are not from here initially. Okay, and even the ancient races are not going to come out and straighten out our society. You have the ability to do it. Now, if you go back to the 70s, okay, I'm sure if you were alive in the I think it was in the mid 70s to the early 80s, they had a neat little series of commercials that said, "You have the power," and literally you do. Okay, now we all have freedom of choice, and where it comes to changing your own life, you have the freedom of choice there as well. You can sit there and go, "Oh, my life is miserable and it's not changing, and what do I do with it?" Well, what you do with it is you pick what you're not content with, and you start making the effort to change gears on it. Okay, because the reality is you're the only one that can. Other people can change your life. There have been, unfortunately, certain situations where people's lives have changed overnight. Okay. But even when that happens, think about it. When I had my stroke, 4 years ago now, when I had my stroke, that changed my whole life overnight. And it certainly wasn't something I was planning on. But, it was kind of comical. Because I woke up in the morning, I did piece it together. I actually didn't have the stroke while I was asleep. I had the stroke while I was standing up. And clearly, I had just enough time, because normal routine, and this is probably TMI, most people, you get up in the morning, you go to the washroom. Okay, well, as it turned out, I didn't have the stroke until I had finished. Until I had already gotten half dressed. Right, so when I had the stroke, I ended up being taken into the hospital. Couldn't walk, couldn't talk. Now, I got in there, I was not in a good mood. I mean, let's face it, I had a stroke. It's just not something to celebrate. But I figured at that point, I have to do something to change what's going on. Well, I got in there, they did their assessments. They said, okay, you're going to be 4.5, 6 months before you even start to maneuver. Hey, Nathan, how you doing? Glad you could join us. I looked at the doctors and just shook my head. It's like, this is not taking 4 to 6 weeks to even, or 4 to 6 months to even start healing. I'm just not waiting that long. Right then and there I went, this is not happening. I am not having my life put on hold. So on the 30th, my mind had already gone into overdrive. It's something you have to understand. That tendency of procrastinating, of putting things off, is something that you can overcome. I'm living proof of it. Okay, I'm not perfect by any means. But I am happy to say that I managed to get my income tax in today. Not one of my favorite jobs, but it was very necessary. So that should be sorted out in the pretty near future. Okay, but we have a choice. Leave your life the way it is. Continue with the path that we've been taught. Fear that the world is going to end, that your life is going to be miserable for the rest of it. Or you can go, I've had enough of the fear. I've had enough of the lack of success. I'm going to make it happen. Okay. Football, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Hopefully your day has been going well. The reality of it is we can sit there and we can look at the world and go, no, we're all going to die. We're all going to be, we're going to have shortages of food, shortages of property, shortages of peace. We're wrecked. And somebody else has to fix it. Bad news. We're going to have to do that ourselves. Now, I will tell you, the fact that people are even coming to the chat room tells me we have a shot at doing this. I mean, this is just a tiny, tiny, tiny group. Okay. But, it really is a tiny group. But I'm absolutely asking for your guys' assistance to help make this happen. And where are we? Chad, if you're still in the room, okay, if you would be kind enough, and I know this is what's called a bizarre way of doing things, but if you would be kind enough to put into the chat room when your show actually takes place, that would be really appreciated. This is the time that we really have to take a look at the world and go, are we going to continue down the path we've been going down? Are we going to continue listening to the people that tell you it's not possible? And I think I just spotted, iVoice, is that who just came in? Nathan, go way back. iVoices, how you doing? Yeah, I did see you come in, but that's okay. I hope your day's going well. The sad reality for me is that there is so much I am striving to shift gears on, right? I worked it out. Now, I mentioned that I have to get, in order to get Races of the Worlds out, the second printing out on schedule, as it were. In other words, when the pictures are done, I have to make absolutely certain, okay, that I get 10 pages done a week, okay, of the expansion. Now, what was it? I wonder if I've got that book open. I don't think I do right now. You know what? The funny thing there, Joe, and I'm only going to touch on this very briefly, but like I said, if people really want to tangle with the whole religious thing and go into more of an in-depth look at it, absolutely. Find somebody that wants to bring me on to their show that actually works in that venue. But because of the fact, and this is something to consider here, Joe. Okay. This is just something to consider. Now, bearing in mind, Christians will understand this one really well. Okay, that Christ came to relieve everybody of their sins. He did. There is no way I'm going to argue that point. I remember the whole period quite nicely. Okay, but he came to relieve it, to forgive everybody of the sins they had already committed. Okay, not the ones that were going to be committed. And this is where that whole venue has gone sideways. Okay, he came to forgive sins that had already been committed. Now I'm not going to argue there. I'm not going to argue with you that in your eyes you're a sinner, you're not perfect. There is not a soul in existence that is perfect. Okay, there is not one that can plan everything without a miscalculation. And yes, I know that's going to go over like a lead balloon. The reality of it is this. Okay, we make miscalculations. This is part of the spiritual growth path that we're all on. All at different levels, all at different points, but we're all at the same point as well. We're right here, right now. And this is the only time that we can actually make alterations. But I will tell you this. If you're one of these people that believes that you're one of two things, either that you're sin-free, or worse, you're perfect, you may want to reconsider that. Of course, the reality is, from what I was shown a long time ago, the whole concept of sinning can only happen when you go against your own beliefs, against your own karmic debt. Okay, in other words, when you're dealing with other people, do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. If you're treating people in a poor fashion, if you're being prejudiced towards them, belittling them in essence to make yourself feel better, this is just blatantly wrong. Because I can virtually guarantee that nobody that is doing that would appreciate being treated that way themselves. Hey Lazarus, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Hopefully your day's been going well. I was just looking at the way my life has been going, and I looked at it and went, I am done. I am done with this idea of living in the past and living in fear. The last couple of weeks, well, it seems like I've been letting my stress get ahead of me. But I am very happy to say I had to deal with a would-be problem child that used to set me off every time I talked to them. Today when they phoned, I think it was today anyway, they phoned up and I went, no, I'm going to make this real easy for you. I'm pulling the contract. Just period. I'm pulling it all together. Right. But I managed to tell him that without my temper going off the deep end, which is a really nice change. Okay. Net result, I got looking at it. I am hoping, Lazarus, that the welding job is the one you were really aiming for. That's the one you really enjoy. Because I will tell you, the more you enjoy the job you're doing, the less like work it's going to feel. Okay, like I spent the better portion of my day yesterday getting all of my books up to speed, and getting that sorted around. So now what I'm doing is I'm starting to move forward. I got cars all over the place in my parking lot. Last one just about ran into somebody backing out. That's always fun to watch. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, unfortunately, and that really falls into your boss's hands. I would strongly recommend that if you haven't thought about it, probably have, talk to your boss about what needs to happen for you to get the better equipment so you can do the job properly. And you literally lay it out for him that this is what I require in order to do your job properly. Hey, Christine, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Now, I was going to ask a real silly question because I'm not going to hear the answer. What I was going to ask, because of the way you typed it, it's either Christine or Christine. So I guess the best way to ask that is it the first option, which is Christine, or the second option, which is Christine? Thank you very much. In answer to your question, got past the minor heart attack, up and running again. You know, I do find what happens is I get myself too locked into a situation, just not moving. And if I'm not moving, what ends up happening is the stress levels climb. Stress level climbs a little too much. You know, so we have to look at the world and ask yourself this. Oh yeah, I know I make that sound just casual, but yeah, in all honesty, Lazarus, I really did. What is today? What is today? This is Friday. So yeah, on Thursday morning, I decided it was time for another one, I guess. Seems like a normal thing from my end. Oh yeah, in all honesty, it was funny there, Christine. A number of years ago, like my son was still living at home, so it would have been about 3.5 years ago. I'm driving him off to work, and he looks at me and he goes, "Dad, you're not looking well." He says, "What's wrong?" I says, "In the middle of a major heart attack." He goes, Dad, shouldn't we be going to the hospital?" I says, "No, I'm just going to drop you off at work. I'll go home and sleep it off." And sure as shooting, that's exactly what I did. I dropped him off, got home, heart was still all over the place. So I went home, laid down, and worked my way through it. Following day, I was up and about. There wasn't any real hassle to it. Of course, the poor doctors are having a bird with me. You know, the reality of it is that I let my stress level get a little high. And part of that stress has been because of something I told you guys that I was absolutely planning on, and then the bottom fell out of my bucket. You know, the whole trip down to Vegas, I was fully intending on making. And then they ended up closing the company I was working for. And then my EI claim got turned down. 22 years with the same company, 12 with the same owner, and working 35 hours a week, right? Saying, every way a week for the last year. Well, excluding one when I had the stroke. But they turned around and told me I don't qualify, and I won't know for another 3 weeks whether we can get that turned around. Why are we here? Lazarus is just going, that's like when I was on life support and they wanted me to stay. Yeah, see, they bypassed life support decades ago for me and shipped me off to the morgue. I didn't agree with them, so I left. Yeah, the reality is, if things turn around, that's great. If the estate clears and all of a sudden I've got the money to do it, that's great. But by then I may not be able to get either the flight or the room. So we'll have to see. Is it a disappointment from my standpoint? Absolutely. Yeah, the reality of it is I have to keep, and everybody has to do the same thing. It's absolutely imperative. If you're going to turn your life around, okay. Well, that was my thought. I'm just looking at this Lazarus going, and it says, as soon as I came out of it, and they yanked the lines out, he's like, "Give me my papers. I'm going home." Right? He goes, "I'm sure they would have found something wrong." You know, and the reality is when I had my heart attack, and that was back in 2013. When I had my heart attack, I told the dog, I got up in the morning and said, "I'm going home." And the nurse goes, "You can't go home. We've got more tests to do." I said, "Let's be clear. I didn't come in here in handcuffs. I'm going home at 1 o'clock. But we've got these tests that have to be run." I said, "I don't mind. You've got till 1. I'm leaving. Well, if you're absolutely insisting on leaving, then we've got paperwork you have to fill out. I said, that's no problem. You got till 1 o'clock to get it to me because I'm leaving at 1, and frankly, I don't care about your paperwork. They were not happy with me. But, the reality of it is, it didn't matter much to me. So I'm looking at this going, I do have the option. I can give in. I can turn around and go, I'm going to give in. I'm going to buy into the fear. Okay. But let us not forget that the human body has the ability to rewire everything. Okay. It's got the ability to repair itself. Now, when I had my stroke, aside from it really screwing my whole day up, well, I actually screwed up a week and then it's played havoc since. But they checked my heart then and told me my heart muscle was absolutely perfect. Brain is another problem. And this is the thing, Lazarus. This is one of the things that I've been really pushing with. I've really been asking regarding this YouTube channel. Okay. And I got to talk to somebody about how to access it to actually change my password. Because it's a shambles trying to get into it. But trying to read online to figure out how to do it hasn't worked well. But the one thing I have found about asking for help is, especially if you're dealing with your higher self, your guardian angels, your animal totems, whatever it is you're turning to, okay, thanking them for help ahead of time as though it's already been accommodated works like an absolute charm. Okay, now I'm looking at this situation, like this one over here. You notice I've got my desk somewhat clear. You can't see the corner here, but because it's behind the chat line. Actually, it's just plain behind everything that is my camera. My camera isn't lined up properly. Yeah, honestly, Christine, if you take a look at my older videos, this place looks drastically different. Okay, I'm quite happy with the way it's coming along now. And I will continue working on that. But it is going to take work, it is going to take time, and it's certainly going to take focus. So when we're looking at changing the way the world goes, and whoops, would you look at that? Sure, cut yourself off right in the middle of the statement. And we put this back where it belongs, and that should work better. We'll just sit back down here and make sure that everything is back where it belongs. Oh, it is. So one thing, the funny thing there, Lazarus, is I found out a long time ago, and I was warned when I was a child, okay, that when you're changing things, when you're clearing things up and getting rid of the clutter, it usually looks worse before it starts to look better. And that's because of the way that we end up going about doing things. It's funny, Christine. The best mechanics in the world usually drive a wreck for a vehicle. The best psychologists are usually an absolute shambles. Oops, and you're just going to have to wait for me for half a second here. Hey, Dave.
You all ready for tonight?
I am so, and we're on air right now. Am I telling you this? How's that for good?
Oh, excellent. All right, I'll let you go.
Absolutely, Dave. We'll talk to you in a few hours.
Bye-bye.
Ciao. And like I said, that was Dave. The neat little thing to deal with, is I was always told it looks worse before it looks better. Yeah, Lazarus, that was Dave just phoning to make sure I was going to be on the show tonight. He always phones me a few hours ahead of time Because there are days when, it's like, oh, are we really at that point? Oh, Christine, I'll be on in about 4 hours. I'll be here until 6:30. Then I take a couple hours off, and by 9 o'clock Pacific, we'll be back on the air. The nice part about it, just a curiosity thing here. Who was it that just made the comment? Yeah, Lazarus, your curiosity, how far back? I understand that you see yourself as an old soul. Do you have any idea how long you've been here in the way of Terran years? Any idea at all? It's just a curiosity thing on my part. But the one thing I have found with people is being an old soul it's a great idea. It's a great thing if you have remembered one small little detail. No matter who we are, okay, no matter what's going on, you will get older. It is up to you if you're going to get old. Well, actually, just the reality there, Lazarus, is the big problem there is you're a little on the lost side because you just haven't pulled yourself together yet. And this is one of the primary things that we are here to do, is to remember ourselves, which what that boils down to is find all the bits and pieces of us that make us us, pull them all together into one pocket, and then carry on forward. Okay. Yes, as I told people the other day, I am in the process of documenting more and more of the past lives I do recall. Okay. Some of them were pretty horrendous. Okay. Some of them were pretty bang on. I loved my time in Northern Ireland as a fisherman. And I mean, we were not wealthy. We really weren't. But we were happy. Well, there is a neat trick there, Lazarus. I mean, you are here. The thing is, we are all on Earth. Okay, we are literally, and Daniel Brinkley actually said this best. We are all spiritual beings having a human experience. And part of that experience is the so-called human poisons. Okay. Well, that can be a confusing batch. At least you're not, like the song from the old Irish Rovers. My mother, she was orange, and I think it was my mother, she was orange, and my father, he was green. Now, there's a conflicted upbringing. Okay. In my case, my actual spiritual heritage is Druidic in nature, but not the Druids, the people. The reality is that that modern history says the Druids were not really an issue. The Druids were actually wise people, and they had capacities that were way beyond the ken of most. Angels, how you doing? Glad you could join us. By the way, apologies for Wednesday. Quite literally, I was passed out by just shortly after 9. But I did figure out why I'm passing out so early. Like today, today I got up at 2:30 this morning. And this seems to be normal right off the bat. I mean, I've had some lifetimes that were absolutely fantastic. The Irish one was, now the sad part is some of the ones I had an absolute riot in were in some of the darkest periods of Earth's history. Like I made an absolute financial killing during the Black Death. The downside was I lost my wife and both my kids to it. The plus side was I was making money hand over fist. And me and my buddy, I had a buddy, and I don't know what his heritage was at that point, but his name was Fenyon. And he and I used to have an absolute riot. We had started off as adversaries, okay, because we were both corners. But we became very fast friends. Oh, some of the big bands there, Lazarus, are just absolutely brilliant. That was when those are from a time when major groups of people had decided they were going to work together to produce something absolutely amazing. In today's world, and this is what I'm aiming at focusing on. Okay, now maybe I'm letting my head get a little too big. Lord knows, if you want a large head, the average cowboy hat here in Kelowna, the large ones are simply an extra large. Okay, the biggest ones that I usually come across are 2X. In my case, I stumbled across, because those are all too small for me. But I stumbled across one day that is a 4X hat. Okay, and it fits snugly. But like I said, when people call me a fathead, I'm like, yep, pretty much. Can't do much with it though. Just looking for what we got here. Oh, must hit enter. Okay, well, we'll just have to wait for the tail end of that. But when we're looking at changing our life, first thing you ask yourself is, are you walking along behind somebody that goes, oh, look, the world's going to end. We're going to all have massive famine. We're going to have massive war. The world's going to end. We're going to be 20 years of darkness. I mean, you can have 20 years of darkness if you'd like. Personally, I'm over it. Okay. From my standpoint, I'm just not that interested in continuing to live in darkness. So what I did was I went, no, I'm changing the way my world is going. Okay, and I will talk to whoever is available to figure out how to make that happen. But I have found that, I've let myself get connected to some people. And it gets a little hard for my end, because when I connect with people, it's like, okay, this is not going to happen very often. But pretty much almost invariably, they'll go their own ways, which is normal. Okay, and something that I just had to come to terms with and go, yep, they're gone, so I'm just going to carry on with me. Hopefully this is something that can, like, what I'm doing right now is I'm going, okay, I've got to get all this stuff sorted around and make it happen the way I desire it to. Then we take something like that, which I don't really require. I did find something. See, I've got a savings account that costs me no money. Okay, so I'm literally using it at this point for savings. Yeah, I certainly encourage you to do that there, Lazarus, as far as being more vocal. The reality of it is, there's a lot of questions that people have that multiple people that are listening or tuning in later have got the same question. And this is why I say, if you've got a question, even if it is not on the topic that we started out with, okay, absolutely ask away. But remember, please put the question in all caps so I can actually find it. I mean, yeah, I go through the chat room, and take a look at the conversations that are going on, and throw my 2 bits in, whether I should be or not, I don't know. Well, in all fairness, Lazarus, and this applies to literally everybody, we all hit a point where you'll climb and then you'll hit a dead plateau, Or where it comes to weight dropping, you'll drop and drop and drop, and then you'll all of a sudden bottom out. You'll just plateau. Okay. Now myself, I'm down. Last I checked, I was sitting at 194, and I am striving to break that 190 mark. But the last time I made a major breakthrough, took me getting pneumonia for a month. Not a brilliant idea. Two major factors. One, I have no functional idea. Dave and I have tried regarding what we're going to talk about tonight. Dave and I have tried to plan things before. And without exception, because we are audience driven, the questions come in, all of a sudden the topic goes that way. Which is why I say when I put a topic on here, okay, this is where I'm starting. This is not where it necessarily stays put. Hey, Shadow, glad you could join us. The neat part about it, where did I have? Oh, Shadow. I don't think I showed you guys this the other day. Actually, I was working on it. But this is that gold dragon I was working on before. But I do have the red wings on now, obviously. Unless you're colorblind, then it may not be obvious. Okay. I'm still going to do the undersides of them. But I am making headway, tying things off. Yeah. See, when we're looking at where your world is, what do we got here? Not specifically. The answer to your question there, Football Cat just asked, at your last job, would you tell your clients when they will pass? I did. There were a couple of times when I really did, but most of the time, I warn them that they are heading into a dangerous point, and they do have to. If they desire to stop it, they still can most of the time. I told one person, unbeknownst to me, well, I made the comment. Somebody was talking about the way they were feeling, and they asked, "How is their health doing?" Right, and I says, right now you're having a rough time of it. But I said, by next week, all the pain, all the anguish, all the struggle that you've been going through is gone completely. It's just like all of a sudden it's over. Well, the woman swore at me, called me the worst psychic she'd ever talked to. Told me I was absolutely a pathetic fake, and then slammed the phone down. And then it dawned on me, once she slammed the phone down, turned around to my boss and I said, she won't be calling back. And he goes, why? What did you say to upset her? I says, well, I told her the truth is what upset her. He goes, well, what do you mean that's what upset her? I said, I told her all of her pain will be gone next week. And it will be. She'll be dead. She won't be calling you back. In my case, I'm still going to have to deal with her. Okay, quite frankly, I still do have to deal with her. One of the drawbacks of being a working medium. What do we got here? I was just looking at the chat room, what's going on. Like I said, there's cross chatter that happens, and I absolutely encourage it. The fact people listen to me at all is amazing from my end. But no, the reality of it is, Football, whenever I do, and this is still the case, whenever I do a reading for somebody or a consultation, I will be dead honest with them regarding what I am seeing. Very few times is an actual physical death absolutely written as this is the path you're on. Once in a while it is. Okay. But the one thing I found is if you tell somebody they're going to be dead next week, psychologically speaking, they almost throw in the towel. And net result, they end up essentially making it a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I do my best to actually look down the other road of what can you do with what's left. Well, and that works out well. I don't, honestly, Christine, myself, I just don't lie well. I really don't. You know, I remember I was standing I was at a live fair one day, and somebody looked at me. You know, somebody came up to my table, and I was straightening something out on the table, and he looks at me. He goes, "Excuse me, sir." He says, "Not to be rude, but how do I know that you won't tell me just what I want to hear?" And I never even. And, I mean, talk about being rude. I never even had the courtesy of standing up. I just looked up from where I was bent over. I says, "Because frankly, sir, I really couldn't care less what you want to hear." So he stood there and he just dumbfounded for a few moments. And then he goes, "Excuse me, but you, I want a reading with." I went, "Okay, no problem. We'll deal with that." At the end of the reading, I asked him, I says, "Can I ask you a personal question?" He goes, "Yeah." He says, "Fire away." I says, "We've got 9 other fully qualified psychics in the room here. Why were you so adamant about it being me?" He goes, "Well, to be blunt," he said, "when I asked you how I'd know if you were lying," he says, "you almost told me to flock off and leave you alone." He says, "If you're not even going to try a sales pitch," he said, "I know you won't lie to me at the table." You know, some of the time, some of the people I've had to deal with, and this is why I said, will I continue doing the consultations? I was looking at walking away from it and saying, "Scrap it, I'm done." But the reality is, it is still something that is necessary. Now, will I lie to people about what I'm doing or about what I'm working with? No. But I will tell you 2 things that are rather critical because I've been burnt way, way, way too often. Right. So the way I do it is this: I only work on video link, which means at this point, Skype, um, Yahoo Messenger, LinkedIn has one that I've done. Zoom, I don't know how to use, and FaceTime. Okay, where we can actually see each other, because I will tell you, far easier to read for somebody when you can actually see the auric field around. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I only read prepaid. Okay, and the reason for that is because of the fact that way too many people that had a lot of money that could legitimately afford it, okay, would get the reading going, "I'll pay you next week," and I'd never see the money. Okay, but and this is a true statement. Okay, I was flown out east one day. Somebody asked if I would do a reading for them face to face, right? Because he didn't want to do it over the phone at all. I says, "Yeah, by all means." But frankly, I can't afford to travel. He goes, "Well, would you be willing to come out if I sent you return tickets?" I says, "Absolutely. Just give me a little bit of notice so I can set it up with my boss. There's no problem with it." So the guy flies me up there, right? I did literally 4 hours of reading, a 4 hour reading for him. But he put me up for the weekend, paid my entertainment, bought me $500 worth of stuff, and the return ticket. Now needless to say, I thought this was a real good pay until over the next 3 months he paid for the reading. Literally in a 3 month period, this guy sent me $10,000 for a 4 hour reading. Now, literally, you do the math. This means I actually got paid $2,500 an hour by this guy, plus, of course, travel expenses. So if you look at that, yeah, it'd be just over $2,500 an hour, which I think is pretty decent. Football. I actually did that on the first fair I was at. I never even knew what a psychic was, right? But I was used to walking into work at the company I was working for at the time, and I'd walk in, answer half a dozen questions people were thinking of asking, and I turned around, the bartender of the place, in between paychecks. Now remember, I was working hospitality at the time. So, of course, that meant I was broke between paychecks. And this is back in the early 80s. And he hands me 1986 to be specific. And he hands me $5 and he says, "There's a psychic fair in town. You gotta go." I looked at him, I went, fair. Noise, rides, crowds, people. No. He goes, "Not that kind of fair." I said, "Fine, what's a psychic?" He goes, "What do you mean, what's a psychic?" I said, "Well, accountants juggle numbers, jugglers juggle, politicians lie. What does a psychic do?" So he goes, "Just go, you'll understand." So I went, "Okay, no problem." I said, "I'm not paying for it, so it's your nickel." So I went. I went down there, and of course I walked in, and the first psychics, or what I consider so-called psychics, right, turned around, they looked at me as I'm walking by, and they went, and I don't know if they said it or if I heard it, but what I heard was, "Where's your white wall? Why aren't you using white wall? A white wall?" So I stopped and looked at them, and I said, "Thought you guys are supposed to be psychic. I ride a motorcycle. They don't make white walls." Like I said, I knew nothing about it. Now, there is more to that, but Nathan, the guy that, and I'm not going to tell you what he was, where he worked, okay, but he was a very well placed. He was a tenured professor, okay, as far as that went, and he was having, like most people, he was having relationship issues. So he flew me out to talk to him and help him straighten it out. And the reason for flying me out was because he didn't like doing things over the phone. He was one of these people that absolutely desired to be face to face. Well, that's just it. I used to, and I had the benefit of having well over $50,000 in the bank, which is not wealthy. In my eyes, financially speaking, that's pocket change. But I'll tell you, I blew the whole 9 yards, pretty much. And I'm back down in the same bin, but I am happier now knowing more of what I'm doing than what I ever have in my life. I should have been paying attention, but hey, what the heck, didn't do it. Now I am curious about which energy theory you're speaking of there, Lazarus. Oh, absolutely, Christine. Do enjoy. We will catch up to you again. Just taking a look at what was going on. Somewhat's been said here. What do we got here? Just missed one. Oh. The reality of it is that there are all sorts of situations, but whether somebody's got money or doesn't, they all seem to run into the same problems. Okay, and this is why I say, no matter who I'm dealing with, no matter who I'm dealing with, I look at them as an individual, not what they do for a living, where they come. Where they come from, as in where they're living, does have a bearing. And any psychic that tells you that everything is done on a psychic level, politely put, they're full of it. Because 80 to 85% of what I tell people, I can quantify. I can tell you this is where the information comes from. Okay, there is stuff that I really do not have a way of logically explaining. Okay. That's the funny part. Right now, Lazarus is just saying I work enough to pay my bills. I'm at this point just bouncing both ends against the middle to make it happen. But I have no doubt that by the end of this year, I will be in far better shape than I was at the end of last year. And this is why I say, when we're looking at changing the way your life is going, pick what you're not content with and change it one step at a time. By doing that, you'll be able to get back on the path that you're looking for. Yeah, I don't need that noise, but figure what the heck. And that information can be put over there. Again, this boils down to having a whole pile of stuff in my way that I don't require and moving it so that I don't have to deal with it. But when you take a look at things, Elaine, how you doing? Glad to see you could join us. You know, the reality is, I really hope you have had a good day. My biggest complaint with today is it's dark now. Of course, that might be understandable. It's 5:30 at night here. Well, I will tell you, football, coffee doesn't always work as well as people would like. You know, I've tried, I keep trying to stay up. I keep getting asked to go on to, and Nikki asked me this just the other day, trying to get on to S4 at 10 o'clock at night. But the reality is that I'm passing out usually somewhere between 9 and 9:30 at this point, which is why I don't tend to end up on there. Oh, hey, Lazarus, are you ticked about your heart attack or mine? Because mine you just get used to. You know, they're a pain in the neck, but they work like a charm. You know, the reality is a lot of the reason that I end up with my heart doing stupid things is because my heart doesn't stop because of the heart. It stops because of a glitch up here. Okay, when I was 20 months old, I had a fever of 108.4 that flash fried the hypothalamus, wiped out the hippocampus, flash fried the hypothalamus, and wiped out the hippocampus. Net result, it did some collateral damage as well. So when my stress level goes up, you know, as with everybody, the blood pressure in my brain goes up. Okay, and the capillaries swell. Well, as soon as that happens, they create a short in the nervous system. Net result, the heart stops. Now, in all fairness, either the leg quits, the heart quits, or the lungs quit. I'm telling you, the leg is the easiest one to deal with. But as soon as I have the heart attack, you know, and I end up, you know, hitting the ground or sitting down because I'm having troubles, right? As soon as the heart attack is over, the blood pressure drops. And sometimes that heart attack is over because, well, the heart stopped. You know, so when it stops beating, the blood pressure drops, the swelling capillaries collapse, and the nerves refire, and I wake up. It's a bit of an annoyance, but hey, what the heck? I had the stroke thing. Those are no fun. You know, heart attacks are painful, but I will tell you, strokes are a bigger pain in the neck. At least in my opinion. You know, the thing you have to look at whenever you have a major setback, and forgive me if I've got the wrong person, but I think it was Joe. I think it was Joe that ended up snapping his back, right? But once you get past that side, you take a look. You know, take a look at the issue, right? You take a look at whatever you're going through. You know, that's a funny way of putting it there, Joe. You know, Joe's just asked, why do people have a smart hand and a really stupid hand? That's because the brain is built where if you focus on one side or the other, okay, if you focus on the right side, which is the logic side of it, that's the logic processing. If you train the right side of your brain, that becomes the smart side. And the left one doesn't learn how to function because it's working on the creative side. Okay, that's why you end up, you know, that is why, and thank you for clarifying that, Joe. But that's why you end up with one hand that will cooperate and the other hand that doesn't. Okay. And this is also why it requires extra training with the, as you call it, the stupid hand. Okay. Just look at the bright side. If that stupid hand is not slapping you silly against your will, this is acceptable. We can work with it. It's when it gets to start doing things of its own accord. Like my hand keeps reaching for a cup of coffee. Whether there's a cup over there or not seems to be a debatable point. If you look at Lazarus, okay. If you look at it this way, you're working out, but you're using standard logical means, which is a good thing. Don't get me wrong. Okay, but in tandem with those, if the arm is responding poorly, you literally concentrate on the shoulder, because that's where the nerve cluster is that runs the arm. You concentrate on the shoulder, and you literally run through your head one word: heal. It will open the energy flow. It'll open up the relays so the hand will respond a little better. Okay, but it does take time. It does take effort. Whatever you do, do not buy into the concept that many people buy into that says it'll never get healed. It'll never respond the way I desire it to. I used to tell myself that where it come to people's names. Can't remember your name. I've got a lousy memory for names, or more to the point, I've got a really good one. It's just really short. I'm just looking at this. I was wondering the same thing there, Joe. Hey, Raven, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Hopefully your day has gone well. And guys, by the way, I know I haven't said it today, but I'm going to do it again anyway. Okay. First and foremost, if you like the video, do please give us a thumbs up. And absolutely, if you haven't, subscribe to the channel. Assuming, of course, you like the stream. Do subscribe to the channel and share the daylights out of it. We have got to keep working together to make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, I'm certain that we are not going to make everybody happy. We had somebody in here the other day that was complaining about the number of trolls in this room, and I'm thinking, I don't have a problem with anybody I've seen in here. Okay. Of course, I'm still having fun trying to figure out what a troll is. Aside from a 10-foot tall critter that regenerates like there's no tomorrow. And even they can be controlled with the right magic. By the way, the nice part there, where it comes to those nasty little critters, are they real? Yes. Just not on the surface of the earth from what I've seen. The more we interact with people, the better off we are. Or more to the point, the better we will remember how to communicate. But it has to be done from the heart. If you're doing it to make other people happy, you may find you're creating a bit of a problem for yourself. I remember one year that I ran in, like, one of my totems is the raven. Only the raven I met was 4 feet tall. It was like, I'm 5'8", and this thing was standing on the seat of a bus bench, and looking me dead in the eye. Okay, when I first found it, Oh, bonus raven. Tomorrow, that is 7 o'clock. Well, that ought to be entertaining. Because I know, Raven, that Nathan has asked me when I can to show up. And assuming I'm awake, which, when I'm getting up at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, that can sometimes be a bit of a hiccup. But I take a look at the world this way. If we're going to change if you're going to change your world, okay, then you've got to decide what you're not content with. You've got to take a look at what you're not content with. I wasn't happy with the clutter in this office, and as you can tell, well, you can't now, but if you go back to a number of videos, you'll see there used to be an extra shelf over here behind my shoulder. Okay, and I am in the middle of, I've got to do inventory tomorrow to find out the books that I actually have in stock, in order to get things moving in the right way. Yeah, those are always fun, but that's when like I was lucky. The first totem I ran into was a Wolverine. Right. Talk about a grumpy thing. But sure got the point across. Then of course I ran into to a Black Panther. Right. I was one of the lucky kids from way back in the 70s that actually met Farley Mowat with his Timberwolf, with the Timberwolf he raised. And no, the wolf is not one of my totems. But yeah, now, and bringing that point to mind there, Lazarus. Okay, this bird was taller than you, and it made you edgy. How do you think you would feel if you saw a reptilian, a lizard-like person that was taller than you and armed to the teeth? How comfortable would you feel in their presence? And this is one of the reasons why they don't just outright show themselves. It's funny, you get a hummingbird, blow it up to 1.5 feet, and all of a sudden you've got a lethal weapon on your hands. But that's the neat part about it. I forgot about that name. That now, Sleestack, that is from an old science fiction movie, and I'd be hanged if I can remember which one. I think that was Land of the Lost, was it not, their football? Where they with the Sleestack. Well, it is I do agree with you, Lazarus. Humans do have a natural propensity to survive. One of the things that concerns a lot of the other races is that and thank you so much for clarifying that, football, is that we have a neat little problem. Okay. Humans have a curiosity streak that is absolutely bizarre. And the thing that worries a lot of these races is the fact that humans have a tendency of taking a look at the perfectly logical path of throwing the whole idea out the window, going 90 degrees sideways, and still landing on their feet. And this is one of the reasons why this is such an exciting period in Earth's history as far as civilization goes, from the standpoint of xenoeconomic, the xenoeconomic. So, okay, we're tripping over the word. Xenosociological and socioeconomic standpoint. That, yeah, it's normal to miss your father, and very definitely our condolences. Mine's been gone since 2016. Although, in all fairness, I see him on a regular basis. But everybody handles the passing of somebody else in their own way. And one of the things that I have found with people, by the way, And if there's any other mediums out there, I'm sure they can relate to this. Many, many, many times I run into somebody that's passed away and they don't know how to cope with being over there. They're going like, I've got to get back to my family, to my friends. And I sort of have to look at them and go, actually, you really don't. That ship sailed. You've got to move on at this point. So I'm just reading there for half a second. Yeah, I talked to somebody, and I was about to give you a recipe for an absolute killer salad, right? But of course, 4 out of 4 of the ingredients are actually poisonous, which is why I would call it killer salad. By the way, I don't recommend it. But there are definitely plants. It's always best to talk to somebody that knows their plants before you start playing around. And it's like I was looking on Facebook one day and it was priceless. Everybody in the neighborhood had absolutely beautiful green lawns. And this one guy, he just let the dandelions grow. And the neighbors kept complaining. And they finally said to him, look, you got to do something about the dandelions on your property, or we're going to bring charges against you. The very next day, the guy had a sign on his front yard, great big billboard size sign, 8 foot by 8 by 4 foot sheet of plywood. On the board, he goes, free dandelions, take all you want, which, in all fairness, was doing something about it. So I mean, take a look at whatever you're aiming for. In my case, whoa. Okay, football. The answer is, frankly, no. But I will tell you what the light is, and this is the one that most people don't get. Okay, that light that you're supposed to go to. On the other side of that light, and this is from personal journey, and bear in mind, I've already gone to that light that I can confirm 9 times. A 10th that is still questionable. Okay, but once you get through that light, you will run into family, friends, relatives, pets, plants, you name it. There are people over there that you run into that were left behind, that got over there first. Does everybody go through the light? Frankly, no. But this does not mean if they don't go through the light that they're going to hell or that they're stuck in limbo. Some people just are not ready to go through, and they've got unfinished business that they've got to deal with. Now, sometimes they can deal with it. Sometimes they finally figure out that can't be dealt with on this side, so I'm going to have to move on. But that can take, for some of them, years. Okay, but no, everybody that passes does not actually go to the light, but the ones that don't go to the light are neither trapped on Earth, nor are they sent to hell. Okay. And by the way, newsflash, okay, much as suicide is really kind of pointless, in most cases, okay, sometimes people come here with that being their sole goal and their one goal. Lazarus, right now, keeping the computer running is kind of a bonus. Once my brother's estate clears, I will be getting a state-of-the-art computer. Okay, and at that point, I will talk to somebody about how to go live without actually causing hiccup. No, in all fairness, football, he only wanted black. Okay, which is a good thing because I'll tell you, throwing cream and sugar into the roots would have killed him. Mind you, throwing cream and sugar into your coffee and drinking a lot of it can cause the same problem for humans. Lazarus, I have no problem joining you. When you talk about joining you, are you talking about on your show or just connecting you on this one? Because the connecting you on this one, I have no idea how that works. Oh, I'm quite fine with the. Yeah, and that's something, like I said, I don't even know how to go about doing that. Okay. And with the way this computer works, that becomes a real big complication. You know, especially with every time we try and do something with this computer, like this poor thing is on flat legs. I know that for a certainty, which is why I'm like, even today, the system locked me out of my YouTube channel, right? And then without actually changing the password, finally let me back into it. You know, that's how that works. So I'm like, I don't get technology. It just does really stupid things for me. And, you know, like my other half said, I told her my phone will phone people while it's at the other end of the house for me. My other half didn't believe it either until the phone rang. She answered it and she could hear me calling because she started talking. So I was talking to her, but I was at the back end of the house. And I'm answering her and she says, well, you called me. I says, not possible. It's on the dining room table. And I just got back up here when you told me when you were calling my name. Right. She goes, but you didn't call me. The phone called me. I says, I know the phone called you. I said, the problem is that my phone will do that. It does what I call counter dialing. You know, it pulled a really neat stunt the other day. I was on the phone to my other half, and my phone, while I was on it talking to my other half, my phone phoned my little brother. Yeah, that's what many people have said, and Chad has actually offered to help set it up. But again, I'm really leery where it comes to setting new programs onto my computer. This is where the holdup is. Because right now, the poor thing is having a bird. You know, you see, almost every program I've tried installing, first of all, it takes me forever to figure out how they work. And second of all, like, I didn't even go live for the first year, I don't think, because I couldn't figure out how live YouTube worked. Okay. And I finally ended up getting it to work. But me and tech have always argued. You know, and I love when people turn around and go, well, once you understand computers, we got to realize I started working with computers in about late April, early May of 79. I've been fighting with them ever since, and they still don't do what everybody says they should do. You know, it's just one of these issues, and I will eventually evolve to that point. You know, I am actually trying to get into the 21st century, but that's a bit of a hiccup. I told my son the other day I was planning on getting into the 23rd century. He looks at me and goes, Dad, we're only in the 21st. I went, oh, well, that might explain part of the problem. You know, the neat part about it from my end is that I look at the way this world is going. Technology has a real benefit to it. There are some real uses. But some of what people are doing with technology and the amount they're relying on it is getting to be complicated for society. You know, one of the neat little things that I will tell you is that as society evolves, if we stay on the path of fearing everything, we're going to run into much bigger problems than what people realize. Okay. What have we got here, Raven? Raven is asking, do you know which race or races of ETs are involved with creating all this chaos and crap in our world? Well, oddly enough, 99% of the chaos that's taking place in this world is actually human initiated. Okay. There are not that many there are not that many races that are actually contributing to the chaos. Quite frankly, they're in a sense working against it. The Teklik, when they were headed in, okay, the Suzazians knew they were headed in, and they ran interference and got here first. Of course, they were closer. So they got here and tried to set things up, tried to warn humans about it, but humans weren't paying much attention. But mankind is really what's causing a lot of the problem. We have turned so much of our attention to fear and to lack of, the fear of lack, all of that. This is where things have gone completely sideways. Okay. And this is where this whole thing of communication has got to come back to the forefront. Yeah, I'm just looking at what Lazarus said here. He goes, I fear man, we were set up like gods do. God's a true God, okay, an actual true God doesn't set anybody up. Okay, there are races, the Nordics, okay, the Nordics did it, the Ennead set it up. The Roman gods came in. These were false gods. These were people that came in, and because of what they could do, mankind looked at them and went, oh, you're a god. And they went, okay, bring on the stuff. But a true god does not require a worshiper, does not play games with people, and does not have a real vindictive streak that they will wipe out people just because they don't do what they're told. That is not the way, the true God that I'm at, that is not the way he operates. Okay. Interesting. Wish I had an answer for you there, football, but I don't use those places. I actually phone the company directly. I tried to skip the dishes once myself, and they dropped the ball so badly I refused to use them at all. Like this comment here that Lazarus has, we are stardust. If you think in terms of, Earth was built out of dust and particulates, and man was built out of Earth, okay, out of the soil of the Earth, then yes, in that aspect, we did, if you break it down way back, in that aspect, we are certainly stardust. However, we are sentient individuals with free will, with free choice, but not freedom of consequence. One of the reasons that mankind is still surviving is because mankind is very resilient and has a neat capacity of going completely down the most illogical path and still landing on their feet. Okay. And of course, because mankind replicates so quickly compared to some of the other races, we do have an increasing population, which is where the neat little joke comes in the off-worlders' hands, where they go, mankind seems to think they're good at war. But if they're good at war, why do they have a population rise? Well, I hope somebody's got a functional answer for you there, football. Yeah, I really do. See, I grew up in a Christian home as well. Now, I will tell you, I believe wholeheartedly in God and in Christ, probably more than most people. But do I believe in going back to church? No. course, what I've come to understand, and somebody mentioned it there the other day, that if you actually follow what they're teaching there, it's an interesting take. The answer there, Lazarus, is yes. The sun will go nova. According to one estimate, in about 3 trillion years, which means it's not something to functionally worry about. I mean, you can worry about it if you'd like, but number one, is the world going to be consumed by the sun eventually? Absolutely. It is part of the cycle of life. Okay. Is it going to happen in your lifetime? No. The odds of that happening are slim to non-existent. Okay. But will it eventually go supernova? You can bet your bottom dollar it will. That will be at the end of Esau's, Mother Earth, Gaia. It will be at the end of her life cycle when she is ready to pass away. But we also have to realize that much as the Earth will die, mankind, I was talking to somebody the other day, and they mentioned they were one of the chosen 144,000. Well, bad news, hate to pop people's bubbles, but nobody's coming down to pick out only 144,000 people. Okay, when society learns that we are all on equal footing and works together, the energy will stabilize and make the whole planet a whole lot more comfortable for everybody. The reality is we still, as a society, as a species, have the ability to stabilize things, to make things work in a more positive fashion. But it's going to take time. It's going to take effort. Okay, and no, in answer to that other part of the question, there is not a single race that is out there that is looking to come down here and straighten this mess out. And no, they are certainly not going to show up and go, hey guys, we're here en masse. Okay, yes, there are ships that are big enough. Some of you have seen them. Okay, some of you have seen what looked like a floating city. Okay, it's not your imagination. That is those really are cities. Okay, completely occupied by varied members of a consortium. Okay, but are they going to set a city down somewhere nearby and go, we're here, come and talk to us? No. Nightmare, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Absolutely, Lazarus. People have to realize that, yes, you've got to follow the laws of the land in which you are. And I am I am a strong supporter of the idea that even if you don't agree with the written law, still follow the thing. It's not worth the hassle to break it. Okay, but when we start living our lives by karmic law, be true to yourself first, do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Energy out, energy in. When we, as a species, start on the whole doing this, it will bring us into much better shape. How you doing there, Dogface? Glad you could join us. Hopefully your day's been going well. I know mine's been hectic as all get out today. I left the house to go and deal with income tax. 3 hours later, I got back. And frankly, didn't have time to lay down and put my feet up. So I will be doing that in answer to a question that was voiced earlier. I will be putting my feet up when I'm done this stream. I will tell you, if helping bring people together does kill you, Lazarus, first of all, you were doing it, you were putting too much effort in. And what I mean by that is it doesn't matter how much effort you put in. It's only 50% of the required effort. Like I can tell you, if you desire to turn, or more to the point, when you desire to turn your life around, okay, do it one step at a time. As the African proverb points out, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Okay, and it's just those little changes that will alter the entire way your life is going. Okay. I'm certainly not going to tell anybody here, don't make the effort to help people. But I will tell you, be careful you don't overextend yourself while you're dealing with it. Okay, because if we do not take care of ourselves as a critical priority, we're not going to be in any shape to take care of other people. Okay, and this is just something that has been proven time and time again. Yeah, we had a call a little earlier there, Dogface. Dave called us while we were actually on air to confirm whether or not we were good to go today. So I figure as long as I don't end up having a heart attack and dying before then we're good to go. Now, as for what we're going to be talking about, that remains to be seen. It really depends on what questions come up in the chat room. And in case you hadn't noticed, I only work with one chat room here, partially because I haven't even figured out how to get it to live stream on Facebook yet. Otherwise, I would live stream it there as well. Okay, because Facebook does work for me. But I'll tell you, it's an absolute shambles trying to figure out how to get all of this to work. Yeah, I think we pieced that one together. Although it's funny, there are times when we end up, Lazarus is just saying, tell Dave I said aliens. As in we should talk about aliens, I presume. Pretty much guaranteed. But we have had days where we've gone into a whole different venue on occasion. It's kind of weird on occasion. And that would be the end of my coffee. Because frankly, I don't like the chewy stuff. Definitely not. But that's okay. The neat and Mr. L, how you doing? The reality is, Lazarus, from what has been explained to me, the governments of this world cannot afford to come right out and say, it's real. Here's the information we've been hiding from you. If they were to do that, society itself would have one heck of a hiccup because our entire belief structure has been beaten into us for centuries that we are alone in this universe. Aliens are not real. Well, if the government comes out and all of a sudden says, yeah, here's undeniable proof. Yes, we've been lying to you for decades. In all fairness, it boils down to centuries. The moment they do that, we have an interesting problem. Katie, that sadly is the way I put it when the coffee grounds end up in there. I hate crunchy coffee. Not too terribly offset by coffee crisp. But not a chocolate fan. But no, when I end up at the bottom of the pot, it's got the little bits and pieces of the coffee grounds in it. And I hate the texture of it. No, I got a buddy that grew up on campfire coffee. He loves it, which works out well because I really cannot tolerate it. But I've been wondering whether I should try something a little, coffee for me, it's just I don't like the flavor of chlorine, which is why I don't drink the stuff. Contrary to some people that go, oh, here's an idea, let's try this challenge. It's absolutely suicidal because we know it's toxic, but let's see if we can drink it and survive it because that'll make us out to be really smart. I'm thinking that's a good way to prove you're a complete wash job, but that's just my opinion. And let's face it, I've never exactly been subtle about it. I got all this stuff here that I'm working on. Oh. Ow, that was painful. Do not hit your elbow on a wooden chair. Because I will tell you, much as it's called the funny bone, from my standpoint, not exactly that enjoyable. Wonder if that is what my YouTube, what the thingamy is. Give that a try next time. What do we got going here? Not entirely surprising. The funny thing there, Angels, the really neat part there is people worry, are we being watched by the government? Well, let's clear that up. If you've got a cell phone, if you've got a TV, if you've got a camera that is working, you're being tracked. Now, the good news is, the bad news, so to speak, is everybody's being tracked. The good news is you may well not be of any import to them. Okay. From my standpoint, this is why I say society is necessary. Laws are critical. Again, I've said this once before tonight. Oh, most of you know where this is, but let's just find this one. This is where I will be at 9 o'clock. Okay, this is the link to Dave's show, where I will be as of 9 o'clock tonight. Let us paste that in there. And there you go, guys. Again, if you like the stream, absolutely give us a thumbs up. Do subscribe to the channel. There's a neat little convenient button in the bottom right-hand corner there. And one of these days, I got to talk to somebody about how to get my coffee, the coffee feed up and running. Because clearly it's not there. And I frankly don't know how to go about setting it up. So I'm going to have to find time, or more to the point, make time to talk to somebody that knows what they're doing. Dave helped me set up in the first place, but for whatever reason, it's not working as well as it should be. What have we got here? Now, I don't know if I appreciate the insight there, Nathan. I don't know. I don't think I've ever met Alien Girl 111. But, but I do wish you the best of luck with it. As soon as I get off this, I'm going to have to go and put my feet up for a bit. There's no way around. There's no functional way around that. Primarily because, well, let's face it, way too much in the way of stress has been going on, so I've got to do something about that. Well, the good news there, on the plus side, Carl, I don't watch the news, so to any time somebody brings up stuff on the news that's from the news, did you see this report? Do you know about this thing going on? I'm like, haven't got a clue. I haven't watched the actual news in probably 15, 20 years. Okay, so I just don't bother. So no, the odds of us talking about some political mumbo jumbo, not really good. Okay, Dave knows I don't follow the news. Dave follows the news fine. So do a lot of people. Myself, I just don't bother. Elaine, I don't know if I saw you come in earlier, but welcome aboard. Glad you could join us. We tend to focus on the ET experience. What we usually end up focusing on is different situations that people have been going through, or different things that they've been seeing, that they're trying to find some sort of understanding of. Honestly, Joe, everything I've seen about it says absolutely yes. Okay. But like I said, they are, and the reality is there are watch lists for everything. The computers that they've got run all of this information, and they watch for keywords, they watch for key patterns, and for who you're connecting with to find out who the problem children are. Okay. And one thing that absolutely leads me to say that unequivocally is before Donald Trump ended up in office as the president, he already had a full dossier on me and what I was capable of. Okay. And the FBI, the CIA showed up on my doorstep up here in Canada looking for me by name regarding the UFO stuff. I'm sitting there going, okay, I don't really have a problem with it, but I'm like, the internet, they can have all the information they want. The big people that need to know where I am or that desire to know where I am, I'm not that hard to find. Now, I'm not entirely certain. Now, the Goulet there, Dogface, I don't know the reference point. But if your breath can kill anything, this is not a good sign. Okay. You might want to look into that. But hey, what the heck? I mean, it's like the acid level in my sin. Oh, the Goulet is a Bigfoot. Boy, thanks so much there, football. I've actually never heard the term before. Not that I recall, anyway. You know, the reality of it from my standpoint is this. The more that we really accept people as is, okay, the better off this world is going to be. Because I will tell you, one thing I have found, even in the most volatile of communities, the more you know your neighbors, okay, and understand, shooting at your neighbors or swearing at them is not a good way to get to know them. It's amazing, but when you fire at your neighbor, when you open fire and shoot at them or throw rocks at them and then ask if they're friendly, the answer is likely going to be no. And yet, this is what many of the governments do when a UFO shows up over over their area. Is they launch the fighters and open fire and then go, "Are you guys friendly?" Now I don't know about you, but if somebody's throwing things at me, I usually don't look at them as being friendly. What do we got here? What do we Angels is just going. Uh, this may, Keith, this just may settle something in a public way. And depending on how you are feeling and depending on if you think it is okay doing this right now, was it a real government book of documents I read? By the feel of it, yes, but do not be surprised. The backbone of it, it does feel like it was accurate information. Do not be surprised if a chunk of the information that was redacted was not really was either they either redacted it or filled in extra pieces just to throw you off track. But the backbone of most of what you were reading, by the feel of it, is likely somebody's functional interpretation of what they were going through. Now, is some of it misinformation? Absolutely. But like I keep mentioning, trust your instincts on how much of it to rely on. But you always look at it with a handful of salt and then go looking for the corroborating evidence. Okay. Like, I've looked at this world in a lot of ways. And the reason I know that my past lives are as solid as they are is because of the number of people that have corroborated many of them. Well, that's what I was thinking there, Lazarus. Now, that's always a neat little piece of information there, Elaine. So you make your own wine. I will tell you that cuts down on the amount of excess garbage that goes into it if you're making your own. Yeah, where you find corroborating evidence, Angels, is not a big problem. The trick is finding it in the first place so you're content going, yes, I know it's real. I asked my older brother one day about the whole 9 yards, and he looked at me and he goes, in this kind of a situation, because you're not going to get proof, not physical proof, you go with circumstantial evidence, but watch for that piece of information that derails it. Oh, okay. Don't mind me, Elaine. I never was a heavy wine drinker. Like I tried really inexpensive wine. The worst one I ever tried was something up here that's called Schlosslatterheim. Right? 72 ounces of stuff in one night, and I didn't get so much as a popcorn hangover out of it. Now, of course, the best wine, and it was an inexpensive wine I ever tried, was Black Tower. Though I do warn you, the wine at the beginning of the first bottle isn't great. But by the time you get to the bottom of the fourth bottle, the wine is just absolutely superb. Hey, Carl, I don't know if I saw you come in before or if I just missed you. But welcome aboard. Glad you could join us. It's something when I look at that there, Lazarus, the pyramids is something you have that people don't yet realize, but this is because they don't have the tools whereby to actually measure it. But when you look at the layout of the hieroglyphs, yes, they are a language unto themselves, but the layout is far more important than just the words, because the whole thing is an energy conduit. Okay, the whole layout of the hieroglyphs inside the pyramids is an energy relay conduit. Great for communication lines, not only on a verbal but on the emotional side as well. On the emotional and energetic side. Okay, and yeah, what do we got here? They've got a funny little soda machine that might be a carbonation machine that may be able to help you with that. I don't know. I was never a solid wine drinker. Myself, I always stuck to Crown, which isn't apparently the best rye in the world, but I usually stuck to Crown. That was what was usually available. Once in a while, I'd go after Gibson's, but the reality of it is, my dad was also a Crown drinker. But the way to change anything in your life is literally one step at a time. And this is why I spent so much time the last couple of days clearing off old files so I can actually start moving forward with them, and get things moving in the right direction. But that's going to take a little bit of work, to say the least. Here we are talking about wine. Well, that's what I usually end up with. I forgot to pick up blueberries today. 2 a.m. It depends on when I get up in the morning. But no, I'm thinking everybody's talking wine here, and food and what have you, and here I'm sitting going, I got ice cream and caramel sauce in the fridge. Well, ice cream in the freezer, caramel sauce in the fridge, and I think that's what I'm going to end up having. I've already had supper, I had dinner, the biggest meal of my day. Oh, that must make life entertaining there, Elaine. Contrary to popular belief, ley lines work like an absolute charm. And if you connect not the location of them now, okay, it's not, I mean, it's still solid. But if you look at places like Stonehenge, Machu Picchu, and a number of other, and I honestly don't have the names of the various sites, but if you look at where they were when they were built before the continents moved, okay, then frankly, when they were set up, that's where your real power lines are. Yeah, when I'm looking at this vortex thing here, Elaine, I had a client come to me one day. She wanted to build a relaxation room in a yoga studio. And asked me, and she asked me if this plan layout she had would work. And I looked at her and I bust out laughing. And no, because I know some genius is going to try and do this. I'm not giving you the formula for it. But what she laid out was a psychomantium. I bust out laughing. I says, yeah, it'll get them to relax for all 15 seconds. And then it opens a physical door into the other side of the veil. Not necessarily the most relaxing place for somebody to hang around. Now, I got to ask one little question there. Lazarus has just said, promise you will never leave. The curiosity question from my standpoint is who that is for. In the other question there that was asked, Dogface, what is a vortex? A vortex is a weak point between this side of the veil and the other side of the veil. Okay, but the veil is a non-physical place. That is where the veil is the other side of the physical world, where many people on the astral plane travel around. Okay, but a vortex is that gateway between them. Okay, it basically boils down to a funnel that draws people through. Hey world, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Yeah, and this again, guys. I've looked into World's. I've looked in on World's site on his YouTube channel. Where is it? There it is. And definitely well worth looking into. He's one of these people that has some incredible footage, some great conversations that come up. Okay, now I am not a video analyst, so I really cannot speak to the veracity of any of the actual videos. But I will tell you that the knowledge with which World speaks, the confident knowledge that he speaks with, and that his guests talk about it, is definitely well worth listening in on, and at least hearing them out to get a gauge on what fits, on what works for you. Am I going to tell you he's 100% accurate? I won't tell you anybody is 100% accurate. Greetings, JCL. Glad you could join us. The reality of it is that we are looking at a very neat little situation. Okay, now we are hitting here the 2-hour mark. I gotta say thank you so very much for joining me, guys. Really, really appreciate the support. If you like the video, do give us a thumbs up. If you like the stream, do subscribe to the channel and share the daylights out of it. We've got to start working together to really get people aware that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, I will be on Spaced Out in about, we are 6:30, so about 2.5 hours here. The nice part about this whole situation is we can make this a better world. Okay, absolutely we can. Now, with that in mind, we're hitting the 2-hour mark here, so I'm going to pull the plug on this. I'm going to say thank you so much for joining me. Until we talk again, do take care of each other. Take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.